Next, I'm going to invite Sunil for the next session on next gen technologies and fourth industrial revolution. Sunil's bio is amazing, but I have a version of Sunil's bio. And it starts with, he's a very, very dear friend of mine. I've known him for 20 years. He is one guy in Gujarat. If you had to create a CEO in Gujarat, the chief entrepreneurial officer, I would recommend Sunil's name. So with all the innuendos that he has behind his resume, he's a great supporter of iCreate. He is a great supporter of innovation and technology in Gujarat. He's on practically every advisory board and every initiative that has anything to do with entrepreneurship. Sunil, where did I lose him?
Should I replace him as well?
I think he heard my comfort break comment and literally went for comfort break. Somebody has to hurry him up. And I'll let him introduce the next set of speakers in manufacturing, in financial technologies, and in defense. There he is. You missed a great introduction, man. Hey, you were the one who made me take the comfort break out of the schedule. Don't be a double donkey now. No, the tea can come in. We're not going outside. Sunil, you're up. I already introduced you.
Okay.
Well friends, I know it's not easy starting with 8:30 registration and it's now 12 o'clock non-stop. Everybody needs a break except Parag. I would love it if one of you can come up here and give us a joke that makes the entire hall laugh for 5 minutes continuously. So friends, we are now at the next stage, next session, which promises to be very, very interesting for two reasons. This is where the action is happening in many startups worldwide, as well as the second reason, which I think is also very important, is that the speakers that we have got for this session are outstanding people who are leaders in their own areas, and therefore what they will share with us is bound to inspire us. So we have this session that looks at three areas, and I will go through a little bit of detail about each one of them. The first one that I think we will go forward is Mr. Sanjay Bansal, who is founder and managing partner of Aurum Equity Partners, who is also a fellow member of Indian Angel Network. Sanjay, are you here? Could you please join us on the table? Please welcome him with a warm round of applause. We have co-invested in a few companies, and I'll tell you a little bit about Aurum Equity Partners. It's an investment banking, he's an investment banking veteran with a knack of concluding large complex transactions. Sanjay has over 20 years of experience with a deep and on-the-ground understanding and exposure of handling more than 100 mid and large size transactions across a range of multiple sectors. Over the years, Sanjay has developed an expertise of concluding complex transactions that require a nuanced perspective of the client's business as well as the macro environment impact of the client's decisions. Sanjay is a passionate supporter and enabler of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in India. He encourages aspiring and budding entrepreneurs to angel investing in early and concept stage companies. Sanjay is a charter member of the Indus Entrepreneur Tie and also a very active member together with many of us in the Indian Angel Network. So we have in him a person who has not looked at fintech. There is a wide exposure, and this topic is going to be how is about the financial technologies which is revolutionizing in India. And I think this is a very important sector, very emerging area. What we have achieved in the Indian banking system, where is that bloody fellow Harry gone here? He keeps talking about Israel. I wanted to show off what has happened in India also. No, our Indian system in banking is one of the best in the world today. We've had conferences with the RBI governor when he says that, every time you swipe a card, even before he swipes the card and brings it to you in a restaurant, you already get an SMS. This is something that doesn't happen in US, it doesn't happen in Japan, it doesn't happen in Europe. So this is a very demonstrable effect of what India has achieved. And we have done this 5 years back. So I think in Sanjay we have a person who will really look at the broad spectrum of all this and go forward with this. Let me also introduce Mr. Sanjay Garg. We have two Sanjays today, who is an officer of the Indian Administrative Service, Joint Secretary in the Defence Investment Industry. Sanjay ji, Mr. Sanjay Garg IAS is a 1994 batch, served as a director in the Department of Economic Affairs and then joined as Joint Secretary in the Department of Defence. Now, his presence here marks a very radical departure of the Government of India in opening out the defence sector for private sector and for entrepreneurs. And this is a challenge because defence is an industry, many of which actually puts at risk the lives of our soldiers in some form or the other, whether it's the equipment he uses, whether the food that he eats, the clothes that he wears, the bullet jackets that he has, or the night vision glasses that he may use. And therefore they have a very rigorous system of testing products to make sure that they are really safe and sound to be used against in case there is a need for it. And therefore up to now, most of the production was in the defense units. But with this new thrust that has come to indigenize our entire program, we are very happy that a person like Mr. Garg is here, who will share with us the broad contours of this about both the opportunities and try and translate these large opportunities into specific defense areas. And I think the discussions after that will be very interesting. I also know there are two countries in the world where almost 20% of the total amount of startups happen in defense. And therefore it's an area where a lot of people can be made very interesting to do new things. We have a third speaker today. I will also introduce him very briefly. Mr. Ashish Tuteja. He is a partner at McKinsey. And I don't know whether he is connected. Is he connected? Can he hear us? Ashish, can you hear me? He's going to join us from Bombay for his venture to the audiovisual. Ashish Tuteja is a partner in McKinsey & Company, Bangalore. He currently leads the McKinsey practice in digital and high growth companies. He has led several transformational programs with companies. Ashish completed his Masters and MBA from the University of Cambridge. And I think he's very active in this area, and he has an immense experience of Indian companies where the transformation is taking place in manufacturing through the use of high technology and the convergence of technologies, which in itself is also a very big area for entrepreneurs to happen. So friends, with this brief introduction, may I now first request Sanjay Bansal, since he has a flight to catch at 1, to give us a talk for about 20 minutes, and then we'll take his Q&A. Therefore, then he becomes free to go whenever he feels like. Does it work for you? Yeah, come Sanjay, welcome.
Thanks, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually a pleasure to be here. Since morning I've been hearing, Parag and the gentleman from the government and Mr. Mittal telling me stories, and I must say it's very admirable what has been done in Gujarat over here. I'm not saying this because I'm here, I really mean it. And I think that these are the initiatives which are required to actually catapult the whole ecosystem and make it attractive for the young people to create ideas and actually make them real. So, when Sunil called me maybe 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and he said, would you come down and speak at I Create? And I said, I would love to, but is there something specific you have in mind? And then we did debate for 2 minutes, and we said that you come to Gujarat, so the best thing to speak about is finance, right? So I'm told that Nanakia is like the DNA of Gujarat and Gujaratis, and the topic is very apt in context of the location, therefore, and I'm sure all of you will relate to it very well. I want to know from the audience, how many people over here are in financial services? Just raise your hand. How many people over here are in technology? The technology background? Right. How many people are existing entrepreneurs? And how many are aspiring entrepreneurs? Okay, so I think I have a great mix of people, covering all the 4 questions. And the reason I asked this question is that, the topics is what next 2016. And we have tried to pick up, areas in the world which are relevant and growing fast. And, if you look at, and I talk about fintech as we move along, but if you really look at what is happening in India, and if you look at, I give a quick brief on what we call the BFSI ecosystem, the banking, financial services, just for a better understanding for people who are non-financial background. So, it is an ecosystem which really runs the country in a sense. The whole economy survives on that. And at the heart of it is, of course, the banking sector, from all kinds of banks, commercial, cooperative, private, the whole non-banking financial companies. Then you have all kinds of other financial service providers, be it brokers, be it funds, investment banking, asset management, stock exchanges, the whole insurance sector, which is insurance companies, life, non-life, and each of them have regulators there, different regulators. And the reason I put this out is to give you a context that this ecosystem is, imagine this highly regulated, structured ecosystem, and this is not for India, but globally, is now actually at risk. That means not that the ecosystem will disappear, but the way business is conducted within the ecosystem is changing and will change radically. So technology will I have to hang up on Ashish Sudeja. Can I hang up on him? Okay. The way technology will be all pervasive in every aspect. And if you look at the Indian context, the numbers are startling. So if you look at the total banking credit in India, these numbers as of November, it's 1 trillion. If you look at the banking assets, $1.5 trillion, right? Remittances invest $72 billion. The assets of mutual fund industry, $200 billion, right? I'm giving you a context of the size of this industry in India, right? If you look at and read up stuff about fintech globally, they say that this industry, when it changes, could upset about $5 trillion of economy globally, right? And just to put in context, the global economy is about 65 to 70 trillion dollars, right? Overall, if you look at all the big countries, including the US. So all these numbers, we have 360 million people whose policies are issued every year. If we start now looking at these numbers and looking at the context as to what's going to happen, you should realize that this is a very large industry you're playing. Each and every segment of this industry, whether it's banking, whether it is insurance, whether it is other services which are listed out, is now of size and relevance, and therefore businesses which get created in these industries, courtesy technology, will also have size and relevance. One example which Sunil gave, and I will re-emphasize that, RuPay debit cards, which is a more recent initiative, much against the aspirations of the MasterCard and the Visa networks of the world, have issued now 200 million cards, right? So you can imagine how fast the whole financial service system is going, right? And it is all the more getting accelerated by the Jan Dhan Yojana, the whole Aadhaar system, and we'll talk about opportunities over there later as we move along. But I think suffice it to say that the metrics in BFSI for India are staggering. Of course, in the global context, it's still relatively smaller, but these metrics are only going to grow very large. So one of the things you have to bear in mind when you create a business for yourself is that they're going to be scalable and there will be opportunity of growth within the segment you play in. And it seems like in the fintech across the board, there is a lot of scale and opportunity for you if you were to create businesses around that. Now, to make matters even more interesting vis-a-vis India, alongside this whole change, the India growth story, the India financial dynamics, we know that the mobiles, the internet usage in India has put India in the top 3 in the world as countries. So today we have 900 million mobile users, out of which about 350 million people are already on the internet. That means smartphones, and that number is growing rapidly. We already know that e-commerce is touching close to $20 billion and growing rapidly each year, right? We know that the whole access of data is pushing a lot of people on the net. So the whole ecosystem, from the point of view of making financial or fintech relevant, which means the internet usage, the mobile usage, the service availability has really is growing at a staggering pace. So right place, right time kind of thinking, and we think that the e-commerce and the e-commerce or the internet piece will drive a lot of growth in the sector, and e-commerce may actually even grow faster than what you see on the internet side. Therefore, companies which are set up in those arenas will be even more attractive. I tried to demystify fintech and do some tracking of how finance has moved in the last hundreds of centuries actually. With that, I wish you all the best, and I think that this is an area where some of you should try your hand in it. I did see a lot of hands go up. We're open technology background in financial services. It's going to be the hardest area in India on the internet space. Thank you.
We take 3 quick questions. Sanjay, would you like to come here? There is a mic here.
Yes. Everything is going disruptive, from finance, from payment. So the next is currency. With the evolution of Bitcoin, is the currency going to disrupt?
So there is a lot of question people are running away from it. Because imagine a universal currency. Even the thought is a nightmare. A thought of a universal currency is a nightmare. And therefore, to avoid even contemplating what is the impact of that, it has been put under the carpet. But fact is, some of these things are happening and will happen much more in the future.
Sir, everyone is rejecting Uber when it was coming. Now it is reality. Sir, is the same going with Bitcoin?
I think Bitcoin has far more ramifications because, like I said, every economy has its own currency and currency reference points, and you can't have, what happened to the euro, right? In the eurozone, which is one region of the world only. One Greece impact brought down the euro and impacted the whole region. So, you cannot therefore, I don't see a global universal currency happening in the short to medium term. I think it's a very dangerous phenomenon, frankly. I can't even fathom what's going to happen if that is true. Sorry. That one of the quirks of financial services is it's very regulated. It's a fact. Right? The RBI, for example, will control all kind of lending companies, whether it's an NBFC or a bank or whatever. right? So it's a regulated sector, and therefore there are the guidelines which exist today for the non-online businesses will apply to the online businesses also. But I can tell you, these will evolve. Shift the way it's happened in other areas. We did not have any guidelines for, crowdfunding, but SEBI came up with a draft paper on that. So I think things will change rapidly on that. I think the whole Banking Act will also change.
One last question.
Capitals. That is upon by angel investors. Government is giving some, but how angel investors?
So there is lots of money. Angel is the new investment option. So people used to say, I'll put money into debt instruments, into stock market, real estate, gold. So the angel is the new affair. And because people read about success stories every day, there is a lot of money available. Now this has multiple forms. There are angel funds spread across, I think there would be hundreds of angel funds of different types in the market today as we speak. There are angels, whether they're part of networks or independently, and I would dare say there'll be at least 1,000 angels actively investing in the country, if not more, right? And this number is growing every day. And now you have a new phenomenon coming in, corporate VCs.
In Ahmedabad, we have out of the top 50 graduates who come out in chartered accounting, invariably out of the top 50, we have 30 in the country. So I think finance, money, investing, and looking at this entire sector is very dear to this sector. We have a whole gift city that is dedicated to this concept. And I think this is an area where we really need to look at far more closely, both at iCreate and at the state level, to convert this energy, not only in seeking jobs, but in creating jobs and creating real good value in the future. Sanjay, thank you very much for giving us the broad perspective as well as giving us specific opportunities. And we're very grateful to you for flying in, and now I know you have a commitment in the evening. We still have 15-20 minutes, so we'll ask you to hang on for a while we have the second presentation. Can we invite Vikas Tuteja? He's online. Vikas, can you hear us? Oh, sorry. We are looking forward to a presentation from you for the manufacturing sector and how the convergence of technologies is creating new opportunities for startups. So over to you. Please go ahead.
I hope my audio can some tips to all of you. So if you can go to page 2, please. Can I carry on?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to talk to you today about what's happening in manufacturing, what is this new fourth revolution in manufacturing enabled by digital. Maybe we spend a few minutes talking about what is this Industry 4.0 and what does it mean from an basic point of view for all of us. In reality, what is happening is that many technologies which are now firmly established in the consumer world, in the health world, in the finance world, are finally integrating and coming into manufacturing. And that's why there is a hype, there is an excitement about what can happen in manufacturing. Next page, please. Yes. So here is some context. We all know what happened now. Over 2 billion people have got connected. Yes, there is Facebook, and then yes, there is LinkedIn, and yes, there is you will have real-time monitoring of your supply chain. You will have machines which can repair and restore the material. You will have data to such an extent that you can predict what kind of failure may happen. So that's the excitement that once you move from 2 billion people to 50 billion, which is what may happen. Then we go to example, we go to next page. The big point here is that these changes are not that far out in the future. They are in fact right about here. So in the consumer world, you can figure out how to walk around the Eiffel Tower in the Google Maps. You have Wikipedia and you can figure out why your kid has fever today. All this translates very quickly into what may happen in manufacturing. You may have a viewpoint on what's happening inside your manufacturing unit, what production you have, what may be grateful. Next page, please. I'm beginning, I'm still audible, right? Let me shout out if you can't hear. Yes, and today you can find out what your favorite celebrity had for breakfast. If you are one of those guys cares about that, yes, you can go on Twitter and figure that out. You can obviously also find out how, what's the score right now and how it's coming. Can you move to page 6, please? Page 6 is a very important page. It is based on some of the work that the Global Institute, our economic think tank, has done. What it shows you that manufacturing, to not to many people's surprise, but I guess to surprise many of the people on the consumer side, still has the most amount of data. We all hear exciting things about what's happening in banking, what happens in retail, insurance, and compare. Manufacturing has calculated the amount of data. The data is now the enablement of that, which is the key. Page 7. And this is what we therefore are describing as the fourth revolution or the fourth industrial revolution. So the first 2, 3 being the steam, water, when you have the first set of engines, electricity. Then the automation revolution that we saw, including some of the. So what is Industry 4.0? What are the combination of things which are happening which is creating this revolution? On one side you have data and computation and the lowering cost of gathering data, storing data. About 20 years ago, you could only, or 25 years ago, you could only. That is all going down. So therefore, the enablement around computation and enablement around offshoring to a cloud, that is a big part of the story. Second part of the story is what's happening in terms of technology. So already are in a space where they can last for multiple years with the current battery pack. What the graph shows is how on a organized scale, the ability to do large distance transfer of data is becoming much more easier, much more cheaper as we go.
We had the second session, which was DEFCON, FinTech, and which was essentially for the people who are in finance in our sector. And the third presentation we have now is on defense. So Sanjay, may I invite you to please address us.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's not correct to speak just before the lunch, but I hope I give you some food for thought before you actually go for food. As far as defense is concerned, and entrepreneurship or startups, or even for that matter, private sector industry as a whole, even including SME or even large scale manufacturing companies, Defense Ministry itself is a startup. So we have a lot to learn from countries like Israel or US, where large number of startups are contributing and feeding to the large companies for technology related items, products, innovations. Defense industry has some very peculiar characteristics, due to which for us at present, defense industry till 2001 was reserved for the public sector. Not even the keep apart the startups and the fresh entrepreneur. Even the large-scale private companies were not allowed to manufacture defense equipments in the country till 2001. In 2001, for the first time, the defense as an industry was opened up for the Indian private sector with 26% foreign direct investment. But even though it was opened up in 2001, till about 2010 or 11, nothing significantly happened because we had 9 large public sector units plus around 41 ordnance factories under the direct control of the Ministry of Defence. So virtually all the production, all the orders and all the whatever technology, little bit development was happening only in the public sector. And private sector was not getting any share. Therefore, till about 2010-11, even though it was opened up in 2001, nothing much actually happened on the ground. For last about 3-4 years, maybe 5 years, the need for involving a greater section of the industry into the domestic manufacturing, unleashing the potential of the private sector, all those thoughts started coming in last 4-5 years. And therefore, in the last, I would say in last 2 years, effectively, lot of significant policy changes have happened at the government level to allow or to encourage or to promote private sector investment into the defense sector. Although it is, we are yet to see the significant developments and involvements of the private sector in the defense sector. So I'm giving this perspective because most of the people outside the government or public sector are still unaware of what kind of potential exists, what kind of opportunities exist, what is the size of the opportunity, what is the challenge of the opportunity, and what are the features or the characteristics of the defense industry which one should be aware before getting a plunge into it. So I'll give you a brief perspective to start with. We have a third largest armed forces in the world, and with approximately $40 billion annual budget. Out of it, more than 40% is spent on capital procurement, that is procurement of all weapon systems, tanks, guns, all kinds of. And we are the largest importer of the defense goods in the world now. With about 60-65% of our requirements are met through import. So this is the kind of opportunity, because we have to reduce the import, we have to make the things in the country. The huge opportunity in terms of the business. As far as defense, as I said, till 2001 and even now we have 9 public sector undertakings, which includes Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Bharat Electronics Limited, and other shipyards, and one company which makes missiles, that is Bharat Dynamics Limited. And there are 41 ordnance factories which make all kinds of small arms and ammunitions and combat vehicles, tanks, etc. After 2001, when it was opened up for the private sector, since 2001, more than 300 manufacturing licenses have been given to more than 200 companies. In fact, out of these 300 licenses, about 150 licenses have been given only in last 2 years. So you can imagine that even though it started in 2001 till 2011, it was not much progressive. 34 joint venture companies with foreign direct investments have been approved. Apart from these 300 license holders or 200 companies, which are more in the large weapon segments or large system segment, there are about 3,000 to 4,000 vendors who are supplying to the public sector companies and the ordnance factories, which don't require license. So, if we are talking about the presence of the private investment or private involvement in the defense sector, apart from these 200 big licensed companies, there are about 3,000 to 4,000 smaller cottage kind of industry or very, very small scale kind of industry who feed to the public sector companies and ordnance factories. The whole of this opening up and liberalization for private sector started with an aspiration that given the kind of situation that we need to increase our share of manufacturing in GDP as our aspiration to increase the employment opportunities and to be a hub of manufacturing in the world. So sectors were identified where there are large scale imports like electronic goods, computers, hardware, defense is one of the areas. So defense has been identified in the Make in India campaign of the government, and Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced Make in India campaign in September 14. Defense production has been identified as one of the prominent sectors for promoting Make in India to reduce our dependence on imports, as well as it will have economic benefits like employment creation, GDP, taxes, revenues, etc. The objective is right now we have the ratio of import versus indigenous production is about, import is about 65% and indigenous production is about 35%. So the objective is to reverse this ratio in another 5 to 10 years period, so that we import only 30-35% and at least manufacture there about 65-70%. We need a strong R&D base with technical know-how as well as technical know-why, and with a robust ecosystem of domestic system integrators supported by tier 1 or 2 and 3 suppliers as part of the global supply chain. It's not that we have not been making in India. For the last 60-70 years, all the public sector companies like HAL and Dell and other companies have been making in India, but with a licensed production from the foreign companies, Russian companies, French companies. So they give you license only for certain quantity for a certain period, and they give you only limited production technology. So you just produce and close it, and then so that you are dependent on them for a perpetually you are dependent on them. Some of the recent policy changes which have happened for Make in India is we have shifted the focus of our defense procurement policy, where now there is a categorical preference for equipment which are manufactured in India. So we gave a survey or a web-based kind of a technology scan, and if something is being made in India, then we don't issue global tender for that. So only Indian companies compete among those categories. So for the first time in 2013, this categorical preference was provided that if an equipment is being made in India by any company, whether it is public sector, private sector, or anybody.
And our IT services board. Who are into? Tracking solutions. We have IT products as well as IT services board.
Okay.
Now I will do IT inception things method. Whatnext and IGATE and Israel come together. I mean, with due respect and thankful to the Harry. Now, for defense part of it, I have two questions. One is straightforward, like when we say about procurement, for defense kind of thing, where there is a practical approach and there is altogether different procurement strategy. What is better in terms of procurement? Is it the tendering process, which is more of a formal process and not of a competition process? Can it be better if we have a competition like business plan competition? We can have a technology competition over here where we propose it. There are many competitions going on national level for starting from logo to the systems. Can we have a technology need, and we can have a competition? Is there any initiative for that? And second question is, these are all opportunities for startups for going to defense. Now for startups, modern idea or the technology, what important is the operation and the discipline. And none other can the defense guys can teach us. And Israel is the biggest example where defense is very much part of the startup ecosystem, where you have to go to 6 months training during before starting it. And the attitude as well as whatever it needs for a startup to grow and scale. The disciplines and operations is always going to be needful. So is there can there be handshake between defense community and the startup ecosystem? The next, no matter if the startup is going to help is in the defense sector or not. but can it be any handshake where the knowledge transfer as well as training transfer, can it be implemented within startup ecosystem?
Okay, we take it.
Yeah, it's a very good suggestion. As I said, we are already working on an initiative called Defense Innovation and Research Initiative. And what you are saying, you are going one step beyond that, the training and other kind of needs of the startup, which can be collaborated. I think we can include that, and we are working on this Defense Research and Innovation Initiative, which will be directly with the Ministry of Defense. So it is not some company would be doing it. Only thing is that because some company has to be involved in the process, otherwise it will not result into any product. Because ultimately it has to convert into some product. Otherwise technology alone doesn't mean anything. So to convert into a product, some production company which is producing systems where this technology or component or item or part or subassembly, whatever you are making, has to find place in that system. So therefore, it will be a direct engagement of the Ministry of Defense with these startups, but a large production company in between. Yeah.
Hello sir, my name is Ashwin Jala, founder and...
Just 1 second.
Hello sir, my name is Ashwin Jala, founder and CEO of Roboshop Group. We made the world's smartest drone that can be very useful to our defense. So how I can approach to the defense team and help our defense?
Yeah, see, as I mentioned in the presentation, unmanned aerial vehicles is one of the promising area. See now, as of now in India, there are a couple of companies who are making UAVs, different class of UAV. As far as Ministry of Defense requirements is concerned, there is a process of procurement in the Ministry of Defense, where the requirements are first put on the website. Requirements or the specification, like what should be its range, what should be its endurance, what should be its payload, and all those technical requirements are placed on the website. And when on the website, then the companies or the units which are manufacturing, they respond to the ministry, and after that a RFP or a tender is issued. So when it comes on the website, you check it on the website to see whether your product conforms to these specifications or not.
Since he is the CEO and a very young one, I thought let us find out a little bit more.
So we are going to start up a company called Robotics, and they can be very useful for our defense. In our Eagle S7, the smartest drone, there are many type of defense useful features like landmine detection systems, suspicious activity detectors, landmine detection with the destroyer, and then TV 360 virtual reality, and lots of 17 features that can be in our Eagle S7, the smartest drone. So, in brief description, in landmine detection and destroyer, wherever the landmines are placed in any of the ground, and our drone can detect it and then destroy it. So this is very useful for defense and my aim is help people around the world. So we are starting to help the peoples, and we doesn't have so much funds for making this. So
people who are sitting there, they are all mad like you. So don't be congratulations.
Thank you.
I wish you the very best.
You have some literature on your this thing?
Sometimes we have to now patent him. From now up to graduation and into his first venture, you have to take personal responsibility
Yes,
for your
sir.
success.
Sir.
Harry, he is going to be one of the students who is going to come to you in the month of April, May.
Here this led because the Z-axis drawn, which Dr. Parikar and Rajyavardhan Rathod sir visited at Mumbai, Make in India. They are my mentees. We have mentored them, my firm, and Z-axis.
Yeah, I also.
Achha, you were also there. Thank you for visiting that, sir. So, as a chartered accountant and as a management advisor, I have developed a new suggestion that instead of firms into similar areas, they do individual work and they compete with each other. They should have a joint program, and that is where I like to invite this young lad in our group immediately, and all the support that we can do, because we already have a angel investor, GVFL, we are already talking. So this boy can be very useful and we can add value. And sir, my second question is, what is the exact criticality of need of carbon fiber? Because I know of a one venture, we tried to manufacture carbon fiber and it failed. So can DRDO and defense get together and try to revive? Because the knowledge base has reached say 80-90%, and probably it can click if defense department supports it. Thank you, sir.
Carbon fiber actually is a very high technology and under denial regime. It's a technology owned by Japanese, and they generally don't share with anybody. Maybe what you are talking is very low grade kind of thing. I think 300 or whatever grade, and what we need actually is 800, 900 grade. So I am not a technology person, so I cannot give you the right answer, exact answer right now. But as I have studied the subject and I have visited even Japan for this purpose, the kind of carbon fiber we require right now, National Aeronautical Laboratory was doing some work with one of the PSUs, Midhani and some of the other laboratories. But they have still not reached that level where we, the kind of material we require. But we can further develop this.
So, sir, can you continue with him one-on-one? Let's take last one.
Sir, I had a question with the big companies. How do you protect these companies in terms of their intellectual property rights, number one? Number two, how do you continue making them sustain on the technology front? Because today one technology, they work on something that gets obsolete, let's say, after 1 or 2 years. Or that may not be the requirement. In that scenario, there could be a completely different set of applications which may be required, and that particular startup or a company may not be in a position to continue more. So what sort of care can be taken for these companies which are really key to get up into these technology startup for defense business?
That's why I said that defense systems is not one small. It's a system of systems. So each individual system, like let's say if it's a helicopter, you have a sensor, radar, all control system, command system. So for each system, there is a certain level of advancement we have already reached. Now to go to the next level or higher level, or develop something which we don't have so far, like for example seeker technology for missiles. We make missiles, but we are not so far able to make the seeker. Like seeker is a guidance system which takes the missile to the right place. So the seeker technology is still imported. Seeker is still imported. So seeker is a subsystem of a missile. So similarly, each system will have 10, 12, 15, 20, 50 subsystems. So some of the subsystems we may have the technology we may be producing, some of the subsystems we may have reached some level. So that's why I said that the startups or the technology innovators will have to work for each system depending on the technology level available in the country.
Sir, I just have one quick comment. We have a technologist here, Akash Raksa, who looks at technologies for our requirements. What's the situation on the ground as far as defense technologies is concerned? Is it easy for accessing things?
So actually, one of the, even we do have some experience in Israel and in the US, also in South Korea. One of the key things, major research and development actually happens out of the government research labs. So what is very important, even to promote the startup ecosystem or to understand the needs, that for example, the India equivalent is DRDO. Now to create better enabling mechanisms of how DRDO can transfer non-core technologies to companies, which can then take it off as startups, because that kind of research requires resources which maybe an average startup might not have. Also, universities, for example, in the US, they have a program called DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Program. Now, on those lines, I think if there could be, like in the biotech sector, Indian government did very successfully with the SIBRI, the Small Business Initiative, the biotech research grants, where industry, academia, and the government, they collaborate, a triangular collaboration. Now, this is what would actually also articulate, because in this case, the only buyer is government. So the need articulation will actually happen from the government, which we see is very positive. You can go to Make in India Defense. And you also articulated the broad levels, but I think there are a lot of finer things which have to be gone into. So my request as someone who's in this sector is, how do we make the transfer of technology from DRDO to companies who are willing to really even invest and take forward, make that easier. Currently, the only channel is to go through FICCI. And FICCI has its own limitations of handling that entire channel. So that needs to be more democratized, is my opinion. Thank you so much.
Actually, you can go online and do it. Sir, if you were to start a defense incubator, will you fund it?
We will definitely under this new initiative.
Is possible? Suppose I creates a special. Well, thank you very much. Very good, sir.